Folks, thanks very much for joining us today. I'm the Coach Me 2021 Coach Sports Initiative from Camogie. Again, this is a game-based coach, coaching in Camogie, and I'm going to focus on children aged U7 to U11. So off we go. I suppose we're all in here, folks, because we want to be successful coaches. You know, we want to do what's best. We want to get the best out of our players. And there's just very useful. I've took up a bit of reading now over lockdown, and there's this very useful quote from John Wooden. And I'll let you read it there in your own time. But there's two reasons I really like the quote, and it really resonates with me. I suppose the first one, if you read it, there's no mention of success being medals or trophy or even winning games based. The second thing is that from a coaching perspective, it puts everything in terms of success control of the coach. So if I was organising a team for a year, I'd have four main points, success points there on the right hand side that I would determine if my year's been successful or not. So the first one there being enjoyment. The players enjoy their time. The second one there, development of skills. Whether that being maybe they couldn't roll at the start of the year, maybe they got the hang of rolling at the end. Maybe their striking got better by 20, 30 yards. That's all improvement. Gain friendships. So are they gaining useful and meaningful friendships along the way in their team, and they're learning positive life lessons, whether that be leadership, being able to work in a team, resilience, all those things that sport as a whole can teach us, and all these things lead back into retention. So the better we're doing as a coach, the more more players are going to want to keep coming back. So just think of your own success points. All right. So the structure for tonight. I'm going to look at two different aspects of planning the practice session. First one there being common versus best practice in a session, how to make something game related, age grade differences and focuses, and my own recommended session plans. All right. Again, folks, this is all from my personal experience. If you can take one or two reflections away, absolutely first class. That's all I like to see. We're going to look at during a practice session, key communication aspects between you as a coach and your players, and in session coaching. Eight steps really focus on. Okay. So my first main part into the presentation is what does a session with best practice look like, no matter where it is. And I took a few pictures there. The one on the left and one on the right are from virtual trainings that had to be done there over the very first lockdown. That's Sarah and Kiana there, so they've given me rights to their pictures, and you can see there, they have a ball each, they're smiling, they're enjoying themselves, and then the middle one there, that's Shauna Gale's U12s, so that's way before COVID time. That's the way I'm not wearing a mask. So whether it's virtually or it's in person, what does best practice look like? Main one there I'm going to talk about is no plan or preparation done whatsoever. So maybe you've had a tough day at work and you've rocked up and you have 20 players there and you're scratching your head wondering out what should we do. A good session is written down, it's thought through, even if it's only 20 minutes and it's on an A8 or A7 piece of paper. You know what you're looking to do, you know what you want your players to get out of the session, and it's planned. And plus, if you have that work done, it just means your players respect you a lot more, no matter what age grade you're working with. Coach-centered, player-centered. Who's talking for the longest in the session? Who's doing the most work? Is it the coach demonstrating skills for 10 minutes and speaking for another 30 minutes? Or is he saying, picking one or two cues and letting the players at it? Speaking of cues, running, not enough touch of the ball, these are all very much things that, we want to get away with. And I'm sure a lot of people listening on the call today, the days of running, doing 3 or 4 laps of the pitch, like I had to do when I was under 10 or long behind us. Players want plenty of touches of the ball. If we think of any top athlete in any sport, it doesn't really matter. They all get good. They all get really good at their craft because they put in the hours and put in the effort. Whether that be in the basketball court, on the football pitch, the more touches the ball, the more hours they put in, the better the individual, the more skill development takes place. The session is too easy or too difficult, and this is where players need to feel challenged. They need to feel like they're getting somewhere. They need to feel like they're improving. And if they feel like something is too difficult or too easy, that's when boredom sets in, and we're not hitting one success points being enjoyment. There's no game or a rush game at the end for 5 minutes. Players need adequate match time at the end, because whether you're playing adult, whether you're doing under 8s, under 7s, under 9s, whatever it may be, they're going to be playing a game at the end of the day. Whether it's on a Sunday morning, Saturday morning or Friday night. And the last one there, just to think about, they leave without a smile. We had a webinar there with Grace Walsh, New York TA, there not so long ago. And one of the questions is, Grace, what was one of the questions, or what was one of the best pieces of advice you could give to any club coach listening today? And she said, make it fun. There's no better compliment to a club coach if players leave the session begging for more. So you say, 2 minutes left and they're begging you for 10. So that's just a good lot. I know a lot of people are probably doing things in best practice, but it's never hurts to refresh it. So Stuart talked about, game-related practice. How do you make something into a game? Well, in my point of view, I think it's important to act and think like a child sometimes. And these are just a few questions I put to you when you're looking to develop your own games. So who am I playing with? Who am I playing against? And that may be, if we're doing partner work, I'm playing against or with my partner, or it might be if I'm doing something by myself, or in groups of so-and-so. But we can always need to think, who am I playing against? Am I playing against myself, other teammates, other partners? Can we do something with coaches v players? And this is something my own experience can sometimes work. I remember a Rock U10 session a few years ago, and we had good enough numbers. I think we had 20 under 8s. So we made a circle of cones, myself and our 3 coaches. We had something like 20 sitters. We scattered them all around the place, and the game was whoever's the least number of balls inside the circle or outside the circle won the game at the end. So the children were outside, we were all inside, and it was just flat to the mat for 2 minutes, and that's how you get a sweat going. But I remember a few weeks later when I was back in the club in Rockland, one of the parents came up and said they never stopped talking for 2 or 3 days with this game and how they beat the coaches. That's still questionable to this day, but that's the sort of effect you want to have on players. How do you score? So do you score by, as Stuart identified in the first few slides there, is it hitting the target? Is it catching a ball? What are the problems that you're looking to develop from the game and bringing into the game related practice? So what are the rules? So we can set up all the cones we want, knocking them down or catching the ball. But if there's no rules or standards in place, then we're not working where we want to be.
Mickey, you're gone on silent there.
Sorry.
No, you're back now, yeah.
So what are the rules in place, setting the standards to make things work the way you want to? So, and then how do we win, or how do I win as a player? So is there a certain number of points I need to hit? Is there a certain time limit that must come under? All these things need to be thought about. Modifications. So how can I make the game easier or harder? And that might mean extending the time frame. It might mean putting your cones closer together. It might mean increasing or decreasing the distance involved. And the last one there I have is role reversal. So again, these are all just my personal experiences. Role reversal. So one that I absolutely love, and I'm sure a lot of coaches have done it too, is you split your players off into partners. Ask them to have an A and a B number themselves. Bring your A's in and let your B's practice the row lift. So you speak to your A's and you say, right, I can't get around all the players today. You're going to be my assistant coaches. I want you to look out for 3 things when practicing the row lift. First one maybe is the basket of the hurdle. Is it focused on outside their body? The next thing might be Q2 is, are they catching the ball with their hand that's closer to them? And the third one might be, are they keeping the hurdle nice and flat and low to the ground? So is their dominant hand nearly touching the grass? Is that low? So I might ask them, I say one cue, say another cue, and say, I can't mind the third. What's the third cue? Can anybody remember? And they'll bring it back to me. So we'll let them go off into their partners, practice for a minute, and then they're going to count for a minute and get what their score is. So these are just things to think about that that really influence and really can develop the thinking in youth children. Okay. So age grade differences and focuses. Now, listen, folks, you don't need to read the fine detail in these. It's just something to think about as you move up through the age grades from U7, U9 to U11. That there is slight differences. So player characteristics at the very young age that keep them physically active, give them breaks and keep changing activity. But as they move up through the age grades, they have that improved coordination, and that competitiveness really sets in too. So that's when there needs to be careful consideration with rules and standards and consistency. so you're holding on to their energy and their focus. Coaching style. So think of your context when we say this. So, at the end of the day, we don't coach groups, we don't coach players. If you want to think about it, we coach individuals and we coach people. So there's not really one rule for all. Like little Joey in the corner might be flying. He practices at home and he's flying every drill and he's patient and he works hard. Whereas little, I'm trying to think of names. Oh my God, we'll go Michael. Little Michael might need a little bit more, a stern hand at times, but it's about getting that balance and knowing your players. And I'm sure you can all think in your own club teams.
3-week training session to answer
Oh,
your email.
Someone's just put yourself on mute there if you get a chance there, please. Team play. So this relates back, folks, to whether it's U7, they need more touches of the ball. So when you're doing things into team play and into the games, think of your 4v4s and your maximum of your 7v7s when you are doing a match or a game based at the end of the session. Whereas to get older, we're moving up to your 5v5, your 6v6, maybe your maximum 11v11. As they grow up, as they get older, that's when you want to work into the positional awareness of positional changes of your roles of back and your roles of forward. Tactical, listen, I'm just trying to breeze through these here, but I talk about them in the next few slides. Tactical, there should always be a focus on taking your steps and then playing with the head up. But as they get older, when you're into your U11, that's when decision making on and off the ball takes place. And physical, under 7 is much more focused on your fundamental movements. Compared as they get older, that's when we really want to hone in on the skill and the technique done really, really right. Okay. If you have any questions, just write them in the chat feature, okay, folks? So this is my U7 plan, all right? So it might be for everybody, but it's what I find works for me. So you have your generic warm-up for 10 minutes. Might be a fun game, anything to get the heart racing, stuck in the mud, whatever. I'm sure we have a list of games we could go through. And then I would split them off into four stations in an LD world. 7 minutes each station, and as you can see from my little layout there, station 1 and station 3, I focused on agility and I focused on balance. Station 2 and station 4, something maybe like roll lifting, and station 4 is striking. So 2 and 2, 2 fundamental movements and 2 skill-based games. And then I would break it off into 22 minutes of matches if you want. So 10 minutes of conditioned game to work on the skills being taught, and then 12 minutes for on the go games model. So your 4v4 or your 7v7, your small set of games to break up into it. Okay. U9, something very similar. You have your warm up and then you have your 4 stations. If you can see from the layout there, I have done 1 station focused on agility. So that's foxes of hands. You get a bib and you tuck it into your shorts, and the foxes try and get the hands pennies or the tails. And then the next 3 are we've roll lifting, we've striking for accuracy, and we've movement in pairs as well. So again, the focus in U7 was 2 fundamental movements, and whereas the stations now is just the 1. Okay. And then again, you're breaking off into your games, 10 minutes of conditioned games to work on the skills being taught. So if the focus, for example, was just possession and defending, when you're into the games, can you reward an extra point to that team, upon a successful block or an interception or a hook? Okay, so you're rewarding and you keep focusing back. So what was working on at the start is falling the whole way through. Okay, and finally, your U11 plan, your warm up, and what I'm going to throw in here and just something to think about. Could you do your game for 5 minutes straight in, once players land? Players are dying for a match first off. So what if we give them 5-10 minutes of the game? Let them play away, very, very little instructions, and then see what we need to work on from there, and then bring it back into working on the skill technique through game-based play. So here we have, I've said revise a skill. So if it was ground hurling, there I have, clean the bedroom. Very simply, you have a line of goings in the middle. You have 10 balls here, 10 balls here, and whoever has the least amount of balls striking back and forth within the 1 minute is the winning team. So you're getting your ground strike working on first, then you're practicing the technique again. So next part of that would be introduction maybe of a new technique for that for that, pardon me, a new technique for that skill. For example, if you're doing striking, could we work on accuracy with shortening the grip? And there's your next game in the second little green spot down. You know, you've one line, a line of cones, and another line. Players on both sides. Whoever can hit the cone down gains the point. Very, very simple. All right. And then we're working into a small a game-based practice again, focusing on striking. So can we do 3v3 in an area of say 10 meters by 10 meters, and we're going to give a point for a successful 20-yard pass to a teammate, and then back into 20 minutes game at the end. We're going to give the first 10 minutes of the condition game. We're going to focus on the skill you've worked on. So we're going to give a 25-yard pass. You're going to get an extra point, and then bang straight into the 10-minute game at the end. So everything starts off. You know, there's been a clear progression down or up through the training session. So ground strike, striking for accuracy, striking on the move, and then the game. Okay. Top tip there. Think about inclusion, diversity, and all abilities. So what I'm saying here, like this might be for your U9s. They might be at that skill level where it sits, and maybe your U7. My plan might sit for your U9s. This is just what I find works for me, folks, and it's just to keep you reflecting back on your own thinking, on your own sessions. All right. So during the game related practice. So you might take a look at this and be like, Mickey, you've talked about nearly 16 minutes there, and you've talked about game related practice, and this looks like a drill. This is goal to goal. Okay, so everybody's a keeper on one end, and you're trying to strike the ball past your opponent on the other side. And like I had a plan in place here, so I was told I was getting, I think, 12 under 8s, then 35 kids show up with all different ages. So I think there's a 6-year-old there behind me standing in a blue t-shirt at the minute, and then there was a 13-year-old that was the oldest age group there. So I had a plan in place, but I was able to adapt, put the older kids with the older kids, put the younger kids with the younger kids, make it enjoyable, make it fun. As you can see, all eyes are on me. I have a good loud voice, which sometimes come in handy. So yeah, we're going to jump straight back into it. So I like that picture. Let's go on there. So communication thinkers. All right. So another John Wooden quote. I'm not a fanboy. I just think this is a very useful quote. Young people need models, not critics. And this all relates back into the encouraging the positive relationship and the way of thinking when you're working with youth. And these are the Magnificent Seven by Richard Cheatman. Okay, so I'm just going to let you read them, but jump into them as well. So can we create emotional experiences? You know, can we get to know the player outside of the pitch? We're asking things like, how's school going, or are you playing in other sports, or how's your one's keeping? Maybe dairy firms. How's the family keeping? You know, we want to show that we're more than just a sport. That we're also we're a relationship. We're a support network as well, and that's one of the best things about the GAA. Again, that relates back to building relationships of you and the coach. Take more notice, and I suppose this can relate back to even spot and fix coaching, which is incredibly important too. So, you know, can you pick one or two, if you're doing a skill, can you pick one, two, or three things max that you want to pick up on, or want to make sure your players are doing right? That might be, are they all catching the ball with their non-dominant hand? You know, when they're striking, are they all having a short grip? You know, take notice of the small things, and it might be in one skill, and you might have 3 coaches. If they all pick in one key variable or one key technique, take away relatedness. So you can you bring it back into your own thinking? You know, can you put yourself when you were their age as an under 7 or an under 8 or an under 9 or whatever the age group was, and think, you know, what you enjoyed and what you took out of your sport, and it makes the whole thing far more enjoyable and hits in 4 success points that we started off in the first slide. Are they being challenged? So if we go back to that there, the slide beforehand, when the goal to goal with all players, you know, are they being challenged? You know, they're trying to outbeat their, you know, outscore their opponent, and they realize that, you know, the winners will move up into the plays another winner, and the loser will go down and play you know, a loser of another group. Recognize effort. I think it's so important, and it's something I only take into consideration really over the last number of years. But recognize the effort, praise the process, and that might be, if you see a great strike, praise the great strike. Don't praise the goal. And this relates back up into, if I was taking an adult team, I'm such a person to, to praise the defender who got the flick, who got the block, who won their battle, who played the ball down to the forwards, who got the score, because that's where the effort really comes into it. And the thing about it is, effort and attitude, players can control that. So shouldn't we be praising what we can, the controllables of the thing? No one goes out to play a bad game. No one goes out to miss a free. No one goes out to hit the ball. So if we do those things right, never be far off. And the last one, never stop learning. And that's as a player, that's as a coach. And with 91 people on the call today, so listen, thanks for choosing the youth breakout room today. But you're here because you want to learn more. And I'm the same. Like I can't get enough of webinars, sessions from Paddy Butler or Eamon O'Shea or Martin Fogarty on YouTube. Like we want to keep better, and we really never stop learning. So now we're just into the last part of my presentation today. We're not too far off 20 minutes. I'm just going to quickly go through the 8 in-session coaching tips I want you to think about. So when you're doing a game-based approach, first off, gather your attention, whatever you're comfortable. Introduce the game. So you're explaining what you're going to be playing, the rules, and why it's important. You're demonstrating and explaining the skill, as a coach. You're going to question for understanding, and we say that there. I mean, ask the questions. So if you forget one thing that you said, and ask, is there anything you forgot? Ask the players, with the understanding, why is this good? Why is this bad? When is this happened to us in a game? Right? Questions gain understanding. Okay. Play the game. Let them at it with very little instruction. Pause after maybe 10 minutes. And correct where necessary, and this is probably one of the most important steps. So you're spotting fixing where necessary the issues that you see, and you're endorsing, by comparison and asking the questions. So I'd be such a one to evoke learning through questioning, and letting players work it out for themselves instead of telling them the answers the whole time. And that may mean changing your tone, depending on the age grade. Play the game again, let them at it, but don't expect things be fixed inside 1 minute. It might take 4 or 5 or 10 minutes, or even just in the last puck of the game, but let them at it. And then finally, end and debrief. So pick 2 or 3 points if you wish, and outline what was good first, and then 1 area improvement. So it should always be 2 or 3 positives, and then 1 improvement. Debrief at the end of the exercise and the training, and always keep it to the point. All right. So these are just a few take-home messages, but I just want you to think about them. They're just things that I've worked for me in my coaching experience. You can control what success looks like. The importance of preparation of a good session. Remember what is needed per age group and per focus. Make it a game. Think like a child. I should copyright that one. Communicate on their level. Coach and fix through questions, and the importance of reflection, whether it be after a session, whether it be after an exercise. Always think, where could that have been better? What can we do next time? Or in a game, always just keep reflecting, keep getting better. Okay, so now we're on the resources now. So I'm happy enough for questions now. And it wouldn't be New York. Gee, if I didn't put a picture of Gilly Park in there. So
no bother, Mickey. Thanks very much. Very. I want to get to a few questions. About 4 or 5 minutes, so there's actually a few questions in. 2 of them are related. They're definitely a first cousin. There's a question in relation to how do we top tips for instilling bravery into kids or into the girls when they're learning how to block, hook and tackle at that Go Games level. And the second part of that question from another lady is that just with the current restrictions and things that are in place, there hasn't been much in relation to being able to tackle and things like that, even from last year. So how do we play catch up on that particular aspect of the game?
Yeah. I suppose that the first question now, just on bravery, I think it's really important to, I suppose, teaching and coaching through questions. If you can teach a young girl that the further back she stands from the ball, the more she's going to get hurt. And you can demonstrate that skill, by going through it in very, very slow motion. I think that's one of the definite best ways to do it, especially at that youth level. I think you really need to, when games go on ahead, I think it's really important to praise the bravery as much as you can, and highlight it and single it out. If players get a taste for that level of encouragement, they're only going to want more. But definitely the first part is the main. Break it down into piece by piece of the block, and show that the further away you go, the more likely you're going to get hurt, and the closer you're in, and the braver you are, the more success you're going to have for yourself, for the block, and for your team. What was the second question there again, Niall, please?
Yeah, no, I suppose the fact that the restrictions over last year and this year, there's going to be a cohort of an age group where they haven't actually got that much time to build up that skill of bravery and hooking and tackling and things like that. So is there any tips to how that could be worked on when we get back to play?
Yeah, I suppose it's a good question. It's probably one we're all in the same boat, but we can only do as much as we can. And I suppose I touched on it there when I said inclusion, diversity, and abilities. If there is that if there is that U9 group that are struggling with the block or certain areas of the skill, it's important to to simplify the game whatever way you can. If that means slowing it down, and I suppose it relates back to the first question too. But can we break the game or the technique down into slower percentages? So if we're saying we're doing the block, okay, I want you to swing it 20%, like 20%. So you're really you're going 20%. That's how fast you go, and then 50% a bit faster, 70% a bit faster, and then up to 100%. I think that's probably the best way, and I hope that answers both the questions. It's just again stuff to think about.
Yeah, no, we've time maybe for one or two more. We've just over a minute before we go back to the main room. I suppose a lot of the questions we get asked is what games do we play, or where do we get the games? I suppose where do you go for games or activities, or how do you devise your games? I suppose is the question for this age group.
Yeah. I suppose the answer could be done twofold, and I'll do it as quick as I can. But the resources that the Camogie Association have that'll be on your county website, that'll be on YouTube. But if I'm devising a game myself, I suppose I'll look at the problem as I want to solve. So it may be if it is hand passing, if it is striking, and I'll take it from there, and I'll say, right, what is it about the hand pass that's annoying me? Is it the fact of the catch after it? So I'll break it down into smaller points where I want to focus on, and I'll take the game from that there. So if it is catching, of a game there called Big Step Back, where players start off at this level. Every time there's a successful catch, they move one step back. They catch it, they move one step back. If they drop the ball, they move one step forward. It's about knowing the problem is you want to solve, and then working yourselves back. And always, like as I said there in one of the slides, think like a child. So what are the fundamentals of the game that I want to get through? Who am I against? What are the rules? How do I win? How do I score? How to make it easier? How to make it harder?
All right, perfect. You're just in time there. We're heading back there to the main room. So thanks very much.
Great questions, folks. Thank you.